Hello, everyone. Sorry for this minor inconvenience. I'm Maria Piterberg, and today I welcome you to join me in the Museum of AI Hallucinations. And we will be speaking about AI hallucinations because hallucinations are relevant to every aspect of AI and, of course, to agents as well. A few words about me. Basically, I've been in the tech industry for over a decade, and in the past 5 years, I had the privilege of working in artificial intelligence and specifically deep learning in the lower layers of the training process, such as communication layer for large-scale data centers training, and so on. And these days, I actually lead the runtime team at the Habana Labs Intel. For those who are not familiar with runtime in that sense, it basically means that my team is responsible for the core software that handles the graph during training. It means we handle everything that happens during runtime, such as memory management and hardware engines communication and performance. So basically, it's very, very interesting and very low level. So that was a few words about me, and I think we're ready to start. And AI hallucinations, are they a curse or a blessing, actually? Today we will explore this. And also a bit of art as well, because that's a little passion of mine, and I've been painting for most of my life. So whenever we hear the word hallucination, we think of something going wrong, like a glitch in perception. But in AI, actually hallucinations are both a problem, but sometimes an opportunity. So today we will explore both sides, the curse and the blessing as well. According to Oxford Dictionary, hallucination is defined as seeming to see or hear something or somebody that is not really there, especially because of illness or drugs. So, as you can understand, this is something that's associated with something very bad, something to be feared or fixed. In the world of AI, this meaning is not very different. Basically, when a large language model such as GPT or generative AI model such as DALL-E said to hallucinate, it means that they have produced false or misleading information. And let's imagine this. You're planning a trip to a city you've never visited before. So to make the most of it, you ask ChatGPT for recommendations. So you get a list of great restaurants, highly reviewed, and then you carefully select what seems like the perfect spot. And you get excited, you dress up, you head out, and you anticipate a memorable evening in a charming, highly rated French bistro. But then you arrive, you're all dressed up, but the place is empty. The restaurant doesn't exist. You start second-guessing everything. Did the taxi driver misunderstand? Did I write down the wrong address? But after checking and rechecking, the truth just sinks in. The restaurant just does not exist in any location. And moreover, it never did. So yes, it's annoying, it's frustrating. But relatively, this is harmless. I think the real problem begins when hallucinations stop being funny, like the previous example. And let me show you some other examples where things get a lot more worrisome. So 2 years ago, a verified Twitter account shared the following image. The image shows us an explosion next to a building shaped like the Pentagon. But here's the thing. The image was fake. It was AI generated. But it spread like wildfire, and it went viral even before anyone could verify it. So the Dow Jones dropped 85 points in just under 4 minutes. And although it was fake, the panic, the market reaction, and the confusion, they were all real. And more recently, I'm pretty sure some of you heard about that, Cursor's AI support bot confidently just informed users that the tool could not longer be used on more than one machine. Only it wasn't true. It was completely invented, not part of the company's policy, never approved by any human, but the bot said it with such authority and confidence as if it had just stepped out of a meeting with legal and product. So users believed it. And they were mad, they were outraged, they sent emails, and some users even were so frustrated they canceled their subscriptions, all because of a single hallucinated sentence from a chatbot. So the CEO of the company obviously had to clarify. He said, "We have no such policy. Of course, you're free to use cursor on multiple machines, but can you just imagine your own product spreading to users rumors you never created?" Now, let's take this a step further into a space where hallucinations move from like an oops to a big oh no. These are scenarios that really matter. For example, let's discuss medical misinformation. It can lead to incorrectly diagnosed people, and it could lead to wrong treatment. When an AI confidently invents symptoms, treatments, or scientific studies, someone somewhere may act on it. Historical inaccuracies as well can turn into rewriting history. We already seen models produce fabricated quotes and invented events that never happened. What if it says an event that did happen never did? Like World War II, for instance, is very scary. Over time, this erodes trust and distorts collective memory. In engineering, of course, even a tiny code hallucination, a made-up function, a wrong API call, a missing safety check can cause system crashes in production that could cause a lot of losses to any company. And when hallucinations enter the physical world, such as in autonomous driver systems, flawed predictions can turn into dangerous, very dangerous driving malfunctions. So what I come to say is that AI hallucinations aren't just some fictional side effects. They have real-world implication already today. And this is why understanding them and detecting them and designing around them is so very important. So these examples reinforce just one conclusion. AI cannot be trusted blindly. Every output must be verified, no matter how persuasive it sounds. But let's lighten up a bit. I'm going to tell you a bit of a personal story. These days, I'm working on a children's book, actually, that introduces young readers to the fascinating world of AI. So my first instinct was, why not create illustrations with AI itself? I felt like it is like a perfect win-win situation because not only could I showcase the real power of generative AI, I could also save myself a lot of time drawing, manually. So let's just say this, things did not turn out quite as simple as I imagined. I collaborated with DALL-E 3, and I'd like to share some of the gems it produced. It's hilarious, it's adorable, and sometimes it's just utterly weird. And those are real outputs. I did not tweak or edit them in any way, just for you to see what I got. So this would be a first example. As you can see, the magician has two hands, but additionally, he has a third hand floating from the cauldron. Very weird, but this is what he produced. Let's see the following example. We have the magician holding a bell in a very strange way, not native to us humans. And this blue creature, it has a third hand. Not only that, the hand he has actually is a little different from the other hands. So it's also very peculiar. This one is very funny because it has a lot of issues. As you can see, there's a floating hand holding a picture of a cat. There's something floating like a color palette. And the weirdest one is that I think this girl is actually coming out of the table. If you can see the legs, it's very strange. So yes, as I said, all these are actual examples of DALL-E 3 hallucinations. And they could really be funny, but during the process of working with the book, it was really frustrating. And hallucinations like this are fairly common, especially when generating a large number of results. While there are other challenges that can cause frustration with working with generative AI models, such as context bleeding, I'm not going to touch these because usually hallucinations would be the #1 enemy. In the end, this behavior forced me to one viable solution. To still generate the AI work for the book with DALL-E 3, I had to manually redraw huge portions of each image on my iPad. So, of course, it's not impossible, but certainly it's a complication. And it just led me to realize that the model can handle most of the heavy lifting, but consistently it falls short on that critical 10% that where perception, polish, human judgment, they truly matter. So let's start digging in and trying to understand, why is AI lying to us? Before we understand why is he lying, we need to understand how he thinks. So large models are pattern matching systems, not fact retrieval systems. These models generate plausible sound information, which could be true or false in the real world. Multiple factors can contribute to falsely generated information. It could be training bias. Training bias is when a model was trained on a data that does not represent the real world correctly. For instance, let's imagine a model that was trained to understand what a dog is. But the training occurred on a dataset that only included pictures of brown dogs. So maybe presenting that model, that trained one, with a picture of a white dog, it could lead to huge confusion, and it could be just stating wrong that instead of a dog, it could be something else. Another good example would be overfitting. Overfitting happens when a model cannot generalize and fits too closely to the trained dataset. So this could lead to unable predictions on new data. Also, model complexity. As models grow these days, it comes from billions to trillions of parameters, and they capture more statistical correlations in data, but it does not mean that it's more factual grounding. And let's try to think about the train of thought of a model. Generative AI models like DALL-E and GPT are fundamentally trained on vast datasets, as I mentioned before. They get images with captions, text sequences, and much more. What they actually learn are statistical correlations between features. They do not understand the meaning of causality the way humans do. Instead, they just sample. They sample from probability distributions shaped by their training data. This is why they can freely mix elements, even those that sometimes violate real-world logic or coherence, as long as the training data suggests that such combination could be possible. Human minds, on the other hand, are wired for coherence. When we think of a castle, we imagine a princess. When we think of a dog, probably chasing a ball or maybe holding a bone. When we think of a toddler, it could be hugging a teddy bear or sleeping in a crib. This automatic pattern recognition is a powerful ally. It allows us to navigate the world quickly, efficiently, and effortlessly. But there's a catch. It also constructs invisible boxes in our minds, boxes that make us default to the familiar, and in doing so, quietly limit our creative potential. To an LLM, teddy bear and toddler appear together often, so they feel connected. To humans, on the other hand, they're connected because of stories, culture, and life experience. So the human brain is really, really addicted to storytelling. It will try to create meaning even when none exists. And to prove it, let's run a quick experiment. If you can just take a moment, look at these words, I'll wait for a minute, and you will try to divide them into 3 categories, whatever feels right to you. I really hope you're done because it wasn't very hard of a task. So if I really had to guess, I'd say that most of you came up with something similar to this. And why is that? Because of context. Our minds only find it trivial to group things we've seen together before. That's why almost all of you instinctively grouped the fox with the tree and the mushroom. We've all encountered that scene before. We imagine a fox walking through a forest, trees around it, and mushrooms on the ground. Some of you might add your own twist. Maybe a fox is sniffing the mushroom. Maybe, if you're really imaginative, your fox would be sitting by a campfire and roasting the mushroom on a stick. But even at our most creative, we still follow the script. Our imagination stays grounded to the patterns and the stories that we already know. Context sometimes locks us into a framework. And when everyone is working from the same framework, uniqueness dies a little. So let's just try to break the context and see what happens. What would happen if we would use the following grouping instead? I just threw 3 things at you that aren't really related. Can you imagine a moon, a fox, and a table together? I think your brain just stalled, didn't it? The moment you saw those 3 completely unrelated objects, a moon, fox, and table, your mind tried its absolute best to force a story out of them and failed. You probably stared for a second thinking, wait, what do those things even have to do with each other? And that's exactly my point. When there's no context, the human brain has nothing to grab onto. It hesitates, it freezes, it gets confused even. But guess who doesn't struggle? Generative AI. So let's take a look at this picture. DALL-E 3 generated this entire, beautifully detailed scene in just under 3 seconds. I honestly cannot imagine how long it would have taken me or any human illustrator to design something at this level of detail, composition, and whimsy. Especially because the whole concept is so unusual, so far outside what our brains naturally invent and think. But it didn't stop there. The model even added little touches of logic and storytelling. It has a cup of tea that I haven't asked for, chairs to sit on, as if the model tried to make this impossible scene just a bit more believable and a bit more complete. And then there's this. Now, if I had asked any of you earlier to group stars, a mushroom and a cake, I really doubt anyone would have arrived at this scene. Yet the model did. Here we have a full birthday party in the night sky. Smiling stars, celebratory hat, floating balloons, constellations twinkling behind them. And right in the middle, we have the giant mushroom cake, glowing like a cosmic candle. It's really amazing. And lastly, a tree, drinking tea, while sitting comfortably inside the cloud. Now, no matter how imaginative we are, this isn't a scene most humans would naturally invent. It's surreal, it's oddly peaceful, and it looks like something out of a children's book, actually. And again, it wasn't painted by an artist who spent hours and hours thinking about composition and symbolism. It was generated in seconds by DALL-E 3, combining concepts in a way our minds simply just don't. So why is there such a difference between our minds and generative AI thinking? So humans, they tend to reason based on meaning, coherence, and lived experience. When asked to imagine a scene involving a moon, a fox, and a table, our brains instinctively try to make sense of the combination. We want a narrative. Our minds search for logic, context, or metaphor. And when we can't find one, we often just stall or give up. The human brain just doesn't notice patterns. It builds models of the world, structures of meaning, causality, narrative, categories, relations. Our thinking is constrained by coherence. We expect things to just make sense together. And when something violates that coherence, it just throws us off. We start to hesitate, we start to question. And we constantly weave contextual constraints, such as place, goal, time, experience, norms, cause and effect, emotional frames, memory of what has come before. Because of these constraints, certain combinations just feel wrong, even if they're statistically possible. So, as an artist, I know the weight of a creative block. The more you try to force originality, the more your ideas loop back into the same familiar patterns. Safe, predictable, and just plainly uninspired. You scroll for inspiration for hours and your mind just keeps circling back to these things that it's already seen before. So I was thinking, could a generative AI hallucination be used in such case as some sort of a remedy? And so I think yes. I think that now, after seeing all these examples, it becomes clear that the possibilities are just limitless. We're no longer confined to traditional workflow or traditional imagination in that sense. AI can now collaborate with us across almost every creative domain. In visual art and in design, it can help us explore new styles, new compositions, new worlds that could take hours or years to create by hand. In music and sound, just think about that. Models are already composing melodies, soundtracks, and even mastering audio with surprising emotional intelligence. In writing, from poetry to scripts to long form storytelling, AI can spark ideas, extend narratives, or act as a creative co author. In games and in interactive media, it can build characters, environments, and stories just on the fly, transforming how worlds are created and how games are made today. And about architecture and product design, it can just generate shapes and forms and concepts that the humans often wouldn't even imagine, but engineers can later refine and build. I think we're just entering a phase where creativity is no longer limited by time, tools, or technical skill. It's only limited by how boldly we choose to explore. And I think that today, as you walk out of my Museum of Hallucinations, you should remember this. The line between error and inspiration is thinner than we think these days. Hallucinations remind us that AI is not a human replacement, but it's a powerful collaborator with a wildly different perspective. So, thank you so much for joining this journey, and feel free to reach out to me anytime. I really hope you enjoyed it.
Well, that was great, Maria. I learned a lot. This was amazing. To be honest, I didn't expect this one. That was great, very insightful. And there's a lot of people commenting and they're learning a lot. It was a great session.
Thank you, thank you. I really enjoyed it. And sorry about the presentation being a little wobbly.
No, this is good. We are on time. We even you even did a couple of minutes in the, before the session. So this is great. And I think we would love to have. Let's take a couple of questions. Somebody has questions, but we love to have you back because this is hallucinations. One of the topics where people are not clear, and I'm sure, as you said, we can learn a lot from it, and I'm sure we
Yes,
do because it can come up with ideas which we don't have because our brain can only think what it knows, right?
yes,
um,
of course.
yeah, and then this is great. So I have a question here from Sarthak. It says, how do you see AI agents changing the workflow for creators across like design, writing, and music in the next few years?
I think, as I said, that it's going to be a collaboration. People are no longer would be restrained by their just personal experience. Because let's discuss a block for like artistic block for a writer or for a painter or a musician. You're no longer constrained by that. You can tap into the hallucination, tap into Gen AI to spark your creativity again when you feel frustrated, when you feel like you need some help. You can plainly collaborate with Gen AI even before you reach the point of no return when you feel like you have some sort of creative block. But it would be so interesting to see that these tools are going to just reinforce and reinvent our creativity in the future. And I think that personally they already do. They already have done that. As I said, in music, in art, we already see this. It's happening these days and it's amazing.
What do you think Elon Musk just posted? I was watching, not posted, I was watching his video interview. It was 3 hour long interview. He said that in next few years, 5 years, all content will be generated by AI.
Well, that's a tough one. I really hope it's not gonna be the deal, because that could have problematic implications, because as we touched it, because hallucinations is not something that is going to go away at any point, and everyone understands that. So if all content is going to be generated by agents or by generative AI, it's going to be a problem, because many of it would be problematic content. I think that I hope and think that it's not going to be the case, because people are still people. We still think differently. We still want to share our ideas, and most people, they want to use Gen AI to help them bring themselves out better, rather than replace themselves.
Yeah.
So I hope it's not the case, and I hope it's not going to happen. It should be a collaboration, not a replacement.
Well, one last question. I think there's what I can see, to be honest, is there's a lot of, we can say collaboration, that's great, but there's replacement already happening. And I'll give you an example. I run this IT company, and let's say in the before AI, we would hire, there's one guy who's designing screens, one is creating UI, other one is coming with ideas, right? So there's a team working on that. But now a lot of this thing can be done by AI, right?
That's
So
true. That's true, but it cannot be done completely, because just as I showed you with the book I'm just working on, it can do a lot of the heavy lifting, but it still lacks some human touch, because it would be wonky, it would be weird, it wouldn't be complete. So you still need someone to oversee the results of the generative AI. And even though the models get better over time, they still get bigger. So they hallucinate more. And I think it just goes hand in hand. So still, maybe you will, as you mentioned, this high tech company, it will have less engineers working on something like screen creation, but it still will have those engineers. So I
yeah,
think the
yeah.
place, just, yeah, it becomes just different.
But that's now. What about 5 years, 10 years down the road, right?
Yeah, that's I really don't know. That's interesting. I really
Because we
hope
are,
it won't replace us all.
when I see of AI right now, I see that's a newborn baby. I see, that's how I see it, right? It's not there yet. So
Yes.
anyway, but thank you so much. We have our next session coming up. But this was amazing, Maria. We would love to have you just for one-on-one webinar to understand this more. And obviously, we are connected, LinkedIn, all that, and we'll reach out to you. And thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye. Have a good day.
You too.